Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Conquer the Gauntlet Pro and Strength and Speed owner, Evan Preparis. We got a couple of guests on the line. Again, we got Brenna Calvert. Brenna, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we have Daniel Leonard again. Daniel, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
All right. Before we get to today's episode, we're going to be talking about Hannibal Race. A quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Mudgear. If you don't know who Mudgear is, I don't know what you've been doing in the OCR world because they're literally everywhere. Right? And they've been a huge supporter of the industry, involved in literally every aspect of the sport, from Spartan Race to the local, single off races. Love their socks. Great for racing. I know Daniel was rocking a pair this weekend in Hannibal Race in Kuwait. I'm also doing a giveaway. We got a set of medium crew length, kind of the short gray and green Mudgear socks through Folds of Honor giveaway. So if you donate $1 or more to the OCR America Folds of Honor giveaway before Friday, which this episode should come out before then, I would head over there now then and donate, and you'll be entered to win a pair of Mudgear socks, and you can get them for $1, which is pretty sweet. They also got a seat shield and some lifestyle tees, both of which I have a review coming out of Mud Run Guide. You can go over and check that out once that posts. Daniel is the cover model for the seat shield. Seat shield. Sounds like I'm saying something else.
I'll say that 5 times fast.
And the shirt, like the lifestyle tee, is like the softest T-shirt I own. It's so nice. I got the one with it's like the American flag, but there's people climbing up like the stripes of the American flag. So it's kind of like a cool mix of OCR, America, and Mudgear. So kind of 3 things I'm all about. I love. All right, I know you two love Mudgear too, so I think we've heard enough how great they are. So you can plug them in later at some point during your recap of the race. So let's just get to it. Hannibal Race Kuwait, you guys just got back a couple days ago. So Daniel, since this is your first time going to the Middle East to race, or first time going to the Middle East in general, I believe, tell me about the experience.
Okay, yeah, and yes, first time going to the Middle East on top of first time racing in the Middle East. And right off the bat, I have to say they work on a different clock than we do. Right from getting off the plane, I'm thinking it's going to be a little more calm. It's pretty late in the evening, and you would think it was like 7 o'clock in the afternoon, like rush hour. As many people were out and about and driving around. It was pretty crazy. That was pretty fun to see. So
what time did you land?
We got in like, what was it, 10:30?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. Middle of the week.
I think a lot of that's a holdover from the time without air conditioning, and when it was in the summer, when it's like preposterously hot during the day. So they push a lot of things off to the hours when it's cooler. So I think that's a holdover.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. Like after being there for a little while, I was thinking that this is probably an adjustment for the temperature, just because it can get so hot. Yeah.
Yeah, because in the summer it feels like someone just opened an oven door and the air's hitting you in the face, like the hot oven air. But then like you step forward and you never step out of it. It's just more hot air always. So it's rough in the summer. If you're gonna go, definitely winter or late fall, early spring time. Keep going.
Yeah, and so and then definitely an awesome kind of service and trip planned out for us, and checking into the hotel, which was absolutely awesome. I mean, I can't thank Hiba and Amine enough for that. I mean, it was first class service the entire way, and getting into the hotel and then just trying to adjust to the time frame, and then excited to get out and kind of check out the culture. I mean, we were sitting right there off of the Gulf right there off the hotel, and got to get into the water out there in the Gulf and swim around. So that was pretty sweet.
Almost chickened out.
I mean, it was a little cold, so I was a little hesitant to jump in right away. But I absolutely had to get in before we left it left the country. So, and my God, the food layouts were amazing. I mean, I remember when I came back and I ordered the first meal from returning, and I was like, it's like, this is not what I'm used to. What is this? Where's the presentation? Where's the flavors? But I mean, from the buffet, breakfast buffet was just, I mean, insane. Like, you just, from one side to the other is just, I mean, I think your favorite was like the fresh honeycomb.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and at first I missed it, and then Brenna sat down with it, and I was pointed it out to me. I was like, oh man, I got to go back and get that. And that seemed to be the whole thing, kind of. Oh wait a minute, I got to go back and get that. And, me being a pastry lover, there was an entire centerpiece table, like 12 by 12 table that just surrounded with different pastries. So that was just awesome. Actually brought me back to my childhood with all the pastries that were there. And then after, kind of getting used to that, they really have built the especially the city where we were at, have really built it and catered that to like contractors and visitors. I mean, like, I don't think we've ran into one person the entire time that did not speak at least a little bit English. And then even everywhere you go, it's translated in English already for you. All the signage. I mean, you'd have to take extra effort to be confused and not know what you're doing or where you're going or what you're eating. So, I mean, you wouldn't have thought that you left the entire country, except for there's a whole nother section of the printed out in a different language. So,
you can find sections of the city that are Arabic only, but you gotta dig for them. You gotta purposely go out of your way, which we definitely did when I was there for work. But the majority of, I mean, if you're by one of the main roads, which is basically crisscrosses the entire city, there'll be someone with English speaking ability there. And I think, from my experience in Dubai, which is in the same country, United Arab Emirates, as Abu Dhabi, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this episode, similar comparison there. All right, keep going.
Yeah. So, like I said, we were running into people all the time that, even offering, assistance with, hey, you're new here, and if you want to, want to go see sites, just let us know, text me. It's Instagram actually there. Everything is Instagram. If you're not on Instagram over there, you're not communicating that well. And, offering assistance on, just sightseeing. And it was kind of a bit of a shock to me how many of them actually not just visited the States, but actually lived there for short periods of time or long periods of time. I think I ran across 2 or 3 different people who spent time in either LA, Florida, Colorado. It was just kind of across the map with people who had spent time and lived in the States. So, so the entire trip, I mean, like I said, running into people speaking English, who've been to the United States, everyone is super friendly. The driving, definitely something to get used to. It was a bit chaotic, they definitely don't mind or don't really pay that much attention to the lanes. They kind of merge at will. I'd say that was the only kind of a little bit more sketchy part of the trip where you're like, okay, these guys, I mean, you could tell they're used to it, but for somebody new, just kind of sitting in the back, I was like, okay, that was close.
Yeah, especially if you're from the Midwest, it's a very big adjustment. If you're from like New York, Boston, like a major city on the East Coast, it's not as much of an adjustment. But it's definitely a step above New York and Boston as far as aggressiveness and.
It was funny though,
rules.
Evan, because Amine was driving us Amine was driving us, and he said that he was like, they drive crazy here, and I was like, what are you talking about? Lebanon was crazy.
Lebanon's worse. Lebanon's.
And he said he was like, no.
That's because Amin's used to the Lebanese driving, so he knows what people are gonna do. Lebanon from
But he
an American
thought
perspective.
Kuwait was tricky.
Yeah, from American perspective, Lebanon and Jordan are definitely worse than Kuwait. Yeah, and probably United Arab Emirates, I would say, is not as bad as Kuwait, because United Arab Emirates has a lot of cameras to catch people breaking the laws. So I think people obey the laws a little bit more there. I didn't drive much there, so maybe my perception's a little bit skewed. All right. Anyway.
But yeah, so that was the only part where, every now and then kind of like, okay. But that was leading up to the event. And then from there, I mean, we did kind of wandered around and saw some of the restaurants all through that area where we were staying. And then from there, I then went out to the site and kind of got to take a look at the race setup, and it was kind of amazing how much work they put in, especially just from the day before to the day of. It was a lot that they would put together pretty quickly too. So the time change itself, that was a bit of an adjustment for me. I think for Brenna too. My biggest thing was work did not completely comply with, hey, I'm in another country 9 hours ahead. So yes, you're texting me your problems or calling me with your problems at like, at 3 p.m. is definitely making it like an adjustment for me, at 1 and 2 a.m. when I'm trying to make it, trying to get to sleep. So, but other than that, I mean, it really was just a really, really fun trip. The temperature was actually not bad at all. I mean, very similar, except for the snow when we left. I mean, right before I left, it was more similar, but it snowed like the day before we left, the day after we left. But I think the highs were like 80. And then the lows, I think in the evening, it dropped down to quite a bit, and to I think like 55 degrees. And so temperature wise, it really wasn't bad at all. So
I do want to interject real quick because Evan, I couldn't remember on our first two trips, like, didn't we have one day before and one day after the race?
Yeah, you're right. Kuwait, we definitely
Okay.
had a day after because we went to one of the giant malls,
Yeah.
the avenues in Kuwait.
So I would say, like, based off doing it now where I've had one day before and then a day after, and this trip was like 2 days before, I feel like the time change was harder this trip because we had the 2 days of like adjustment, and it was still so weird and off that like every day I was up until like 5 a.m. and then I don't know, it was weird. So I feel like if you're like planning to do a race and you go over there, I would say travel as close to the race date as possible and get there, and like not the time won't affect you as much the first day, and then you can race and then do your stuff afterwards and kind of deal with the time change and like grogginess or whatever if you want, because I felt like the first two trips I didn't have time to notice the adjustment before the race, and like this time I felt just off weird, like more so because I had more time to be there before the race, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I've heard from anecdotal stories, I've heard similar people say similar things where if you're not going to properly time zone adjust, like if you're not going to spend like a week or two beforehand, then just show up as close to the race as possible. Take a couple naps and go for it, and then worry about it afterwards. So,
But yeah, anyways, go on, Daniel, keep on explaining.
Be honest with you, I mean, in the construction there, I mean, it's crazy right now, but I think they're just doing a lot, with building new roads and highways. So that added to some of the driving woes that we ran into with a couple missed turns here and there. But hey, it kind of added to seeing a little bit more of the country than we had originally planned. The one funny part was this happened to be on race day. Is our driver, we were telling it. He puts Hannibal Race into Google, I guess, and he gave him a location, and we started going, and then it was right at the turnoff, and I kind of looked, and Brenna looked, and I was like, I think that's the that blimp that we're supposed to be driving by, and we're passing it. And
and then the military base that we passed had like a giant blimp this time.
Yep, I know
And
what you're talking about. It's always
yeah,
there.
I don't remember last time, but we basically like instead of turning onto that highway to go past the military base and towards the race, we like stayed straight on the other highway. And like race panic set in for both. I think I just told Daniel I was starting to feel calm, and then we realized we were like not going the right way. It wasn't a huge deal because again.
It was a huge deal. Brenna kind of lost her crap in the backseat, so.
But it's just like when people travel, I tell, like Daniel and I we talked about how like we're both really aware and pay attention. So, if you plan on going to like another country, I would hope you would plan to be aware of your surroundings to people. But, like people sound like this is scary, but it's not. Like you just pay attention when you're traveling in foreign countries, and all is well, really, honestly, like if you're half with it. So we realized we were going the wrong way and remedied it quickly.
You'd have to drive really far. You'd have to drive for several hours to get out of Kuwait, essentially, which is you don't want to do. And then there'd be checkpoints, right? Like, you would be like, you'd have to be asleep for a long time not to notice that.
Yeah, no. We were Brenda lost her crap because she's like, we're gonna miss our wave time. And I was like, calm down. Worst case scenario, they'll hold the race for you. But funny thing is, like, if you're trying to get anywhere, for the most part, the best, especially if you're just traveling there, is drop pins. Didn't really think of that, but that's a pro tip for you on traveling: is do drop pins on where you're wanting to go, especially if you're coming back to that same location, because particularly like where we're going to race at and going to visit certain places, not a physical address that we know offhand or kind of has itself in general. So having drop pins on your map is definitely a pro tip. So
yeah, that's a good one. I think the Abu Dhabi Spartan World Championship is like out in the middle of I haven't looked into it too much, but from some of the comments I saw, it sounded like it was out in the middle of nowhere. So that drop pin thing might be a good thing. Although I'm pretty sure they have like buses or shuttles going out there or something, which I know Hannibal Race added for this year too. They had shuttles going out to the venue from certain locations. So if you were uncomfortable driving there, you could just take the shuttle there, which is cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. That's actually that'd make it a heck of a lot easier. So, outside of that, just the food, definitely enjoyed that. So.
Yeah, I definitely, when we went to Lebanon and Kuwait, I definitely gained several pounds because I was eating like I was starving because it was so good and it was like all you can eat, and I was like, I'll just pack this on for later and worry about it tomorrow. So let's get to the actual race, Hannibal Race Kuwait. So second year, I'd say Brenna, give me some differences you noticed from last year, and then Daniel afterwards run into kind of like the overall experience as someone seeing it for the first time.
Yeah. Again, flawless in my opinion for like an outsider, just a racer, not with my build background mind going into it. They did a packet pickup, like the day before the race at a location in the city. So everybody went, and your packet for their race, it's not a paper envelope. You get an awesome cinch bag that's logoed with Hannibal marketing all over it. You get a Hannibal buff. You got your timing chip. You got a jersey, not just a shirt. It's like a, moisture wicking, awesome logo jersey, all prior to starting your race. So that's just really cool. And the first thing I was hoping that would change would be the first climb at the start line. Unfortunately, that was the exact same. So yay for that. But going into it, I kept my eyes open to see like what has changed and what has evolved, because Evan, you and I realized like from the first time you took me to Lebanon to Kuwait to this time, like it changes every time, and it's awesome. There were new obstacles, so like they had their same signature obstacles that we were used to and that we've posted and done videos. You've got your monkey bars and your walls and inverted wall and balance things, but I was excited to see that there was an extra balance obstacle in there. So Last year there was like quintuple steps and then just kind of like a long raised balance beam. This time they had those, plus they did like a incline balance walk over a wall and then down. So they were like Belly of the Beast for Unconquer the Gauntlet, the entrance ramps, how you like walk up them and they've got kind of like the little wooden spots for footing. It was basically those up over like a 5-foot wall, 4-foot wall, and then down. Pretty cool. I love balance, so that was nice. And they added like a tubes culvert crawl that wasn't there, on top of their other barbed wire crawl and like the dark created tunnel crawl that they had last year. So an extra crawl added in. They had the amazing downhill bombing down the soft sand part that I loved. And then in addition, not only did they have the ridiculously amazing glory hill, glory climb, they called it at the beginning, they added another stupid hill, like at the very end. It was, Evan, if you can remember back, like right before you enter the gauntlet of obstacles at the finish, they had that whole gauntlet area like fenced off this year, which is really cool. But right before that, they sent us like straight up this scramble, and it was about half the distance of the first initial climb, but I feel like it was steeper the whole way. I think we, like, Daniel and I started to like, okay, let's go up, and then we were on all fours pretty fast, and they send you straight up, and it was super soft sand, and then you made this like sharp U-turn to a really downhill fun part. So that was different, but like painful at the very end. But I will say the biggest difference, and I could not stress this enough, but like, I mean, what are you going to do? Last year when you and I ran, Kuwait had rain, like more than normal, plus the day of the race kind of like sprinkled, and it was a bit cooler and overcast. Not the case on Saturday. It was gorgeously beautiful, clear skies and sunny and hot. Like from the start, 9 a.m., it was hot. But that also made, for the fact that they didn't have rain this season, the sand, like you and I thought we were running on sand. No, we were running on hard packed sand for them. This year, it was like soft sugar sand the entire way. And I died. I mean, from taking second place last year, my official results, I just looked today, I took 21st. But I will say, like, I started with intentions of competing. And of course, you know, I got all in my head as I usually do. I was really excited to see there was a lot more female competition this year than last year, which was awesome for the sport and the race series. We saw flags from like Romania, Italy, I saw Canada. It was awesome. And they were all in Spartan things. So like they'd been doing Spartans all over the Middle East and Europe. Fast runners for the females and guys, but got up to the top of the hill. Somehow last year I ran it and was like the 5th person up the hill. This year I was like crawling and dying, and I got to the top and body and brain were shutting down, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna run, and I'm already in like 10th place, whatever. I knew that if I continued to run, I was gonna be kind of frustrated and mad at myself, just because personally that's what happens. And I turned around and thank God I saw Daniel like in the near distance coming up the hill, and I just started saying my blessings, because if I didn't see him, I was gonna have to just run, and I was gonna be annoyed. But I saw him and I was like, okay, I'm going to wait for Daniel. We're going to run this together. So we did. And there wasn't a whole lot of running in the beginning because we were both gassed after that hill. But the hardest change and whatever was the terrain itself. Evan, from where we went last year, they actually, like when you went up the top of the mountain, there was construction over to the left this time. I don't know what they were constructing or doing, digging, like excavating and all sorts of stuff. So the route was different this year too, which was cool. I got to see different things. I think we missed the toilet out in the desert. I was kind of bummed.
Oh,
boo. But I saw my camels off in the distance that I'd been like dying to see out in the desert. And we saw sheep. And yeah, so it was a new terrain field because of the weather, and then new course. Some new obstacles thrown in there. They had the gauntlet of obstacles set up the same, where they like basically crush you at the end, which is awesome. Like all the obstacles were placed really well on the course, and then you get to the finish, and there was like 1, 2, 3, like 6, 7 obstacles, I think, right there. I'd have to like do them off in my head real fast, but really cool. They changed up their rope climb this year too, so I mean things were changing and different and all the same and badass at the same time. So Daniel might have more of the details, like, I don't know, the whole race experience. I don't want to take all of his notes, but volunteers, photographers, everything. He can go into detail on those parts too, but legit awesome experience, like all around the race series between obstacles, placement, course, staff, people. Yeah, I loved it again, and they posted today that it'll be back next year, so I'm already like, all right, see you next year. So.
All right, Daniel, what do you got?
So just right off the bat, one of the best festival areas I've ever seen put together for or any race. There are a couple race series out there that do really good festival areas. This is up there with one of the best that I've ever seen, and just kind of got the experience. I actually what I normally don't do is just really sit back and stand and watch a good portion of it, and just kind of take in how everyone is reacting to it, and such a vibe, and it reminds me a lot of just kind of a lot of new people coming to OCR. But except for kind of being real, not, laid back or shy or kind of apprehensive about kind of getting into the mix. I mean, they all just, it's really kind of like a party right there in the festival area. So, and like you had mentioned before, like they actually laid on this turf, which turns out to be like one of the best moves ever for a festival area, not to, go to different areas. And I mean, and depending on what the weather's like, it could be just a mud slop fest. I mean, and you have all this turf laid out, which makes it just awesome for just kind of, wandering around and mingling and talking and dancing, whatever the case may be. So that's pretty awesome. Like Brenna said, kicks off with, I actually named how I called all the obstacles. I kind of listed them out. I think I have either one of them. I call that first one Hill to Heaven just because it starts off. So, and it feels like you're climbing that long. And yes, I totally redlined going up that hill. And turned out to be like the slowest first mile of an obstacle race I've ever had, ever. And probably double it too, just because you get it to the top and it's just, absolutely smoked. And then, obstacle spacing. I think it was, I had it roughly at about probably like just past a quarter of a mile. They had an obstacle placed. And then the big gauntlet at the end, and there was 8 obstacles that were at the end of the gauntlet. And what was really, really cool is, if you want to call it the gauntlet of obstacles, or just I actually kind of said they were the most exciting obstacles that were out there, all put into the festival area. So it just made the festival area that much more really like much more of a party, and kind of just amping, helping, encouraging runners and everything, getting through those obstacles.
And fun for the spectators to watch. Good stuff.
Yeah, it just makes it easier for the spectators, more fun for the spectators. And then every single obstacle, not a few, not most, every single obstacle had a volunteer or two.
Okay.
And sometimes, like there was the last hill,
and they were all cheering nicely, except for
all very encouraging, except for that one at the hill. You're like, yeah, go. You're like, yeah, leave me alone. Shut up.
The guy was like, kept yelling, faster. And everybody's like, ah!
And then, again, the most photographers I've ever seen at a race. I think I saw more photographers in the festival area than I've seen in any other race the entire course. I think it was like 10 photographers in the festival area alone, let alone some more scattered around through the race itself as well.
And to add to his obstacle comment, Daniel did say, this was out of his mouth, that he felt like it was probably the best spaced obstacles like that he's ever encountered in a course, and the water station. So like best placement of obstacles, water stations, they gave you a water bottle, and like if you wanted it, it would last to the next water station. So like that's what he said, and that's pretty awesome from someone that runs all the series that Daniel does too.
Yeah, I mean, with the obstacle spacing, you'll see it sometimes. I mean, I get the whole first mile and a half sometimes stretch to thin out the course. The hill does that by itself, so it doesn't even matter. And then from then on out, I mean, you have obstacles spaced out with one or two that were decently close, but you're going at least about a quarter of a mile before you hit the next obstacle, which makes it a really, really smooth runner's course. I don't know how real runners are affected by the sand, which it switched from really soft sand to really kind of hard. I don't call it sand because it wasn't. It didn't feel like it, but I was hard rock. And then it was so cool. Like the downhill bombs were definitely awesome. But like we turned one corner and you're going around this big, huge ravine. It's just like
yeah, I love that part.
It was actually different though, different ravine than the one from last year. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know. That was my first one. So when I turned the corner, I kind of looked to the side. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. I almost started to pause and kind of look. I was like, hold on, keep going. but just kind of running around that ravine was so cool. And then,
but then it opened up, and like, what do you see past the ravine?
Hills.
No, you could see the sea. So like we're running in the desert and it's soft sand, and then there's this like crazy ravine canyon, and we're like, ooh, that's pretty, that's cool. And then you look up and you're like, holy crap, that's water. Like that's the sea. Like this is, who gets to say desert and sea at the same time on a race? Like, come on.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, but the downhill sand running, I'm not sure if it gets any more fun than that, because even if you eat it, it's not going to hurt. So definitely bombing down the hill was pretty fun. So I think that was kind of all I had for as far as the race goes. I mean, but organizers so personable the entire race. Through the entire event. I mean, you can't say enough about Amine and Hiba and how they're just going around the festival area, talking to people, hugging people, even like being. And this may be some of the like online stories, but like you hear some of the personal stories that's going on with some of the people that are there. I mean, Brenna got to. I don't remember if she saw the person or if I had to point him out, but they had a blind runner that went through the course, and there was an awesome moment at like the huge, they call it the edge wall or just edge, I think, but it's basically a huge steep sloped wall with ropes. Like the people that were with him were calling out like the obstacles, and like he just threw his his walking cane off to the side and then just started crushing the obstacle. That was so cool to see. Swag bag is definitely really cool. I mean, you don't get half the things that they put out as part of the registration that you get with that swag bag, and just how they throw in a little bit of the culture during the race. I mean, it's just like you'll kind of see like a gathering getting together and some chanting, and then a bunch of pictures being taken. I mean, it was just a really positive, cool vibe that was going on the entire event. So the smiles and medals are awesome.
And they're like double-sided. I don't remember if last year's were, but like there's stuff on both sides, which is pretty cool, and cutouts. So I mean, the medals evolve, and the ribbon, the lanyard for the medal has like the flag on it and the logo. So I mean, it doesn't have parts that look like they tried to cut back or skimp. Like they just 100% take care of the entire feel of it. I mean, they do like a warm up, not in the start corral. They don't make you take a knee and like hoo-ha in the start corral, but they do like on the stage, they have personal trainers there set up as part of their vendors, and a personal trainer gets up and does like leads start waves and different warm-ups and stuff. And they did like a chant, like Leonard was saying, but it was like a Samoan, different ethnicity, really cool chant in the beginning, and just gets everybody's attention. Everybody got silent.
That was New Zealand.
Haka.
Oh, really? Did you get that, or you guessed?
No, he was from New Zealand. It's a New Zealand. Can't remember the name, but I met another. Yeah, the Haka. Yeah, and he was. I actually met another runner from New Zealand that was there, and he actually knew the guy, and they had done some. He didn't know that particular one because he said he would have jumped on stage and did it with him, but he didn't know that particular one. He said it's pretty bold to take on one of those, just by yourself up there, but I mean, he went after it, and it was pretty awesome. So.
They have I don't remember if last year, Evan, correct me if I'm wrong. I know we had coffee that we loved because we walked out with it, but they had a really awesome, it was a Seal of Taste, I think was the company, food vendor there that, they you walked up, took the order, the guy had a menu. It wasn't just like 2 items. There was a sandwich and a wrap and a salad and fries and soda. So they took care of you food wise. Again, vendors. So Daniel said, the festival area, it's got everything and more than what we're used to, I feel like. The stage had the results, you didn't have to go find a results tent. It just had this enormous screen on the back of the stage that the results were running all day long.
That's awesome.
At the start line, Amine was always asking, where are you from? What nationality? And then again on the screen, you could see it had the flags of nations, and it's just there's people from everywhere here. It's so cool. It's just I love it.
Yeah, that was one of my things I had down was I actually met a lot more foreigners there than I actually expected to. I mean, I expected to meet a couple, but as many as that were there, I mean, it was rough guess. I would put it at maybe 20% were foreigners not from Kuwait. That was really cool to see. I mean, and sometimes you wouldn't even know because probably 60% of the people that were there spoke really good English. So it'd be kind of hard to. I mean, it's easy to kind of mingle and get to know people, but it'd be hard to be able to tell who's from where. So.
Yeah, I mean, Hannibal Race in the Middle East is the only non-Spartan race that's an OCR or WC qualifier. So if people in that area are looking to qualify, they have to go to – I mean, you'd have to come to Spartan Race. So Spartan Race or Hannibal Race if you're trying to qualify for OCR WC. And if people want to go look at the results, again, you'll see the number of different flags there and how much of an international crowd they brought. Not surprisingly, it sounds like Amine and Hiba brought another spectacular event, which if you've known them for as long as Brenna and I have, you're not even surprised. Last year I thought was great. I didn't really have any comments for them for improvements, and they still managed to make a bunch of improvements that I hadn't thought of or Brenna didn't think of, and not surprisingly did a great job.
Evan, to the point of saying, the quality of event that Hiba and Amine put on, we know what they're capable of, but the biggest shout out to the entire Hannibal team, because this year they were not using an extra third-party build crew. This year it was just the backbone of Hannibal crew. So I would say half the size of workers and people. So me coming from the build background and knowing the stress and what that can do to a crew in an event, you racers wouldn't know. So amazing race company crew to be able to do that, to cut your crew and put on the same quality event. Fantastic. And you were saying again, we go into it, you and I, Evan, because we're brought there to help promote and, bring our knowledge and try to bring others to the race. So like you said, trying to find something to critique and be hey, next time maybe try this. I couldn't find anything to think of to be oh, that could have been better. But there's one funny thing. I don't think it needs to be better because maybe my height, but it also just makes you adapt to an obstacle a different way. I know everybody freaks out with short people not having a step. So their zigzag rig, and it was the same as last year. There wasn't a step, but not scaring short people away. It's made out of metal trussing. So people, you could climb up the trussing, and since it's a zigzag anyways, it kind of works that you pushed off and it sent you in the right direction. But it was funny to watch Daniel watch I was watching him watch the rig because his reaction, I think, was our first reaction of just seeing what people will do to try to zigzag their motion was pretty entertaining. So if there was a critique, I'd maybe say a step for all the short people that in the US just kind of whine and complain instead of just getting better and adapting. Sorry for the harshness, but it was interesting to see them push off the trussing and that volunteer. It was funny. He was so cute because, again, everybody was yelling things, and all the volunteers were cheering in English and yelling in English, and I said thank you, and they acknowledged it. But, like, the one at the rig kept yelling, use your biceps. And Daniel and I were laughing, like, I don't know if that's going to help everybody. It was for entertainment.
All right. Now, I want to, before we get to some Spartan race news about Abu Dhabi, I know the end of your trip, Brenna, was memorable for you. So I want to touch on that because I heard you had a special gift waiting for you back at the hotel.
Yeah. Luckily, I've already told Tracy, so I don't get in trouble now. I mean, who knew? Like, I'm red right now, guys. I don't know. This trip for me was more than the physical aspect of going to a race and being the first race of the season. Like, I needed this trip mentally for a reset for just crap that I've had going on. So, like, hear stories from people we met. Like, I'd meet someone and like, oh, I met you in Lebanon, part of the crew. And I was like, oh, crap, sorry. But like, no, you meet lots of people. It's fine. But, like, the stories some of the people were telling, like, we were at dinner and they're trying to tell others how they met me. And they're things that I didn't even realize people see. So, like, I just always stay true to myself and be who I am and hope that comes across in the best way. And some of the stories that were shared, my heart, like, melted on things, testimonials people were saying that they witnessed of me. And then we get back to the hotel. And apparently I have fans and admirers all around that I was unaware of. And so we were, like, getting our shuttle to the airport set up. I mean, it was midnight or 1 a.m. And the guy at the desk was like, you have something here for you. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I had gotten a message during the race from a Facebook friend, and I realized they started messaging saying, hey, can I come meet you? I'm dying to say hi. I want to get a selfie. And I was confused. I thought they were from the hotel. I was just miscommunication and language barrier slightly through typing. But I had a previous message thread with this person. So I was like, yeah, I'll be back at the hotel later. We can meet up, come in the lobby for coffee or something, blah, blah, blah. Then we went and left dinner, and the guy was like, well, I'm going to swing by the hotel and drop something off for you. Well, I'm reading the message, and he had reached out to me last year around the Hannibal India race that was going to take place. And we get back to the hotel, and like, I have a bouquet of flowers, not like the tiniest thing. It was roses and carnations wrapped in bright red paper, red roses. They were all, red beast themed flowers, and a bag, like a gift bag.
That's
and
amazing.
I'm like, if I wasn't sunburned, I would have been bright red. And Amine and Safatlos and Daniel are, like, laughing at me because we were just teasing someone else. And I opened it, like, so Amine's like, what is that? How are you getting gifts here? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, who is this? So it happened to be one of the organizers that was trying to help get Hannibal Race to India when all that happened. And he just was an admirer. And so I had a note that was like, this is a fan moment, Red Beast, I hope we get to meet. And then I open it up, and there are these two just gorgeous looking, very, like, silky, short sleeve polo jerseys. And it means, like, oh, he has a cricket team, so those are his cricket jerseys. I was like, how cool, the country outline with the flag. And what else was it? Oh, there was some Kuwait, what's the money currency called?
Dinars, I think.
Kuwaiti dinar.
Yeah. So there was, like, a little bit of money in there, not in, like, an offensive way, but it was like a souvenir. So
Yeah,
I
it's
now
got
have
some pictures of, like, the local culture on there. They're nice.
Yeah, so I was excited because I didn't, like, switch any of my currency, so I had that as a souvenir. And it was just, like, it was the sweetest, nicest thing for someone that had never met me from a complete different country that, like, took time out of their way to go do that and just show appreciation and following my story and journey. But then the extra cool part was I took a picture and I sent it to them, and I was like, thank you. There's two jerseys because I noticed one's smaller, and it's for my niece that trains with me and that I love and adore and take medals to. Well, obviously, people follow me enough, they know that. So, like, he gave me a jersey and my niece a jersey, and it was just the sweetest thing.
That's super sweet. That's awesome. Love it.
Ta-da.
All right, so Hannibal Race is crushing it. I know they've got some big things planned for the future. I'm not sure if we can share any of that publicly yet because I know, like, some stuff hasn't been finalized. but definitely keep following them. They're looking to expand to other countries. And then they're also working on some backside stuff for a huge announcement, which I can't share yet because I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But and I haven't even told Daniel or Brenna yet, but it's awesome. And I like, oh man, I'm so excited. I hope this one happens. So just keep following Hannibal Race.
Well, and before we switch, before we switch to Spartan, just like for everybody listening, again, I know people that have traveled to Australia and Europe and wherever, Sweden, Alaska, Hawaii for races. I looked in, like, flights are not astronomical here. I mean, the hardest part might be that it's a longer trip. Okay, I get it. But if you do racecations, put this on your list. When would you ever imagine going to the Middle East, to an awesome country where you feel comfortable, you feel welcome, it's not that expensive, food's amazing, the culture was amazing, and the race is awesome. So if you travel for races, do it. And I've already got other teammates that are like, I'm coming next year, and I'm going to hold them to it. So
it's awesome. So the big news, we usually don't cover too much Spartan stuff because I think it's covered by pretty much every other OCR media channel. So I purposely steer away from stuff so people who are listening and reading don't get the same content over and over again. But I think this one crosses directly into this podcast episode and what we're talking about. So Spartan Race announced their World Championship for 2020 is going to be in Abu Dhabi. If you don't know, Abu Dhabi is in United Arab Emirates. It's a country in the Middle East. And most people know Abu Dhabi, or most people know United Arab Emirates because that's where Dubai is, which is one of the nicest cities in the Middle East, period, right? Like it's over the top in pretty much everything. It's got the Burj Khalifa, tallest building in the world. If you've seen that Mission Impossible movie, Tom Cruise like rappels down the side of it or something in the middle of a sandstorm, something ridiculous, right? It's a preposterously tall building. It's like 200 plus stories though. It's insane. Yeah, like just everything's ridiculous there. Indoor ski mountain they have. They have an ice bar, but again, alcohol is illegal except at hotels. So you can drink alcohol inside of hotels because they acknowledge they have visitors from other countries that may want to drink alcohol. So you can drink in essentially resorts and in hotels at United Arab Emirates, but you can't drink on the street or buy it at a local store type stuff. So Spartan announced there's going to be, that's where the championship is. Not surprisingly, the social media world exploded. With Daniel or Brenna, did you look through any of the comments people were making?
I did, yeah.
I followed it for like a week, and I kept smacking my head every time. Sorry. It just, some of the comments were out there and ignorant. To put it simply.
The first thing that honestly upset me was the number of people who were like, this is not convenient for me. And I was like, well, it wasn't convenient for the other half of the world for like 8 years when it was in, it was in
like
Killington for a couple of years. And then it was in Tahoe for I can't even remember how long, the last 6-7 years. It's been there forever.
5.
Has it been 5? Whatever. It's been a long time. But the number of people who were like, this is not convenient for me. How am I supposed to get there? What am I going to do? And it was like, it's the World Championship. Like, I don't even understand what you're upset about. They're trying to spread the sport throughout the world. And if anyone's going to be critical of Spartan, it's me. And I was like, good. This is a good move. I think this is great for kind of the sport and the industry as a whole. Give me some additional thoughts, Brenna or Daniel.
Yeah, I thought it was just, those comments with the whole convenience part of it how inconvenient was it to travel to England? For like the OCR World Championships there, and then other events that have got, Sweden, that the Spartan does World Championships over there.
Iceland.
Iceland. Yeah, not Sweden. Sorry.
Australia
for enduro, right?
Yeah. So how did it become so inconvenient for this one? Not to mention, again, it's been in Tahoe for how many years, and other people are making the trip, across one pond or the other, and don't ever complain about it. And then 1 year it gets moved away, and everybody loses their crap about how inconvenient it is, and you have a whole season to prepare for that trip. I don't.
And it wasn't everybody, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but it was mainly Americans, North American people. Yeah. And it was just like, guys, it's called a World Championship for a reason. I think people complained every other year that it wasn't leaving, like changing locations. And then of course change happens, and it looked bad in my opinion on a lot of people that were commenting. And I get it, like where we were in Lebanon and where we were in Kuwait culturally is a little bit different and maybe more westernized or accepting of certain things. And maybe when you go there, like, yes, you might have to adapt to some cultural things and cover up a little bit more or something, but it's just like, why is that a problem? And just behave like normal, decent human beings. And when you travel, all should be well. And if you're doing something wrong, you'll be told politely. Unless you're being a jackass, then that's just your own fault. And everybody making comments about being scared and why would you go to a country that's unsafe and on the banned travel list? It's like, hello, I think, Evan, you said like Paris was on the don't travel to list recently. Like,
Yeah, Paris was on the State Department. I don't know if it still is. It was in 2017, it was on the State Department advisory travel list.
And we just made more and more of those comments while we were in Kuwait. Like, again, everybody there was, we were eating dinner in this little like strip mall, you would say, area. There's like a little kids festival going on. And the lady, it's got Baby Shark playing and they're doing like follow the leader, Simon Says stuff. The lady is speaking in English the entire time to 5-year-old kids. So the kids there are raised learning English. So it's just like, again, Spartan going to Abu Dhabi, yes, it might be a bit different or more strict. Everybody's like, oh, guys and girls can't stay together and blah, blah, blah. People, there are resorts and hotels, like Evan said, that, you know, they allow alcohol because it is a big tourist attraction, especially kind of where Spartan's going. Like the race might be in the middle of nowhere, but they'll get you there. Don't worry. They'll get you there safely. And then you'll still have fun in another country. So it's just kind of like, I just want to smack people, but I'm excited.
Well,
I mean,
to Brenna's point, if you're really worried about safety, I can name several more dangerous places right within our own borders. So I think that's just stupid. And then to the point of or wanting the sport to grow, and and some people even want it to become even bigger in like Olympic sports. Well, guess what? That only happens if the world buys in and starts to really participate as a whole. And if we're trying to or have issue with anything leaving the continental states, I mean, it's never going to get there. So.
And honestly, if you have a culture that doesn't like a particular way of life or a particular way people act, like if you never interact with those people, it's never going to change their opinion, right? Because like if you always think a certain group of people is a certain way and you never meet one of them, then guess what? You'll never change your opinion, right? So part of that's building bridges.
Exactly.
And I think sport helps build that bridge. And even if you move the championship anywhere else, like I don't think a certain country's athletes should have to get hurt because their country's policies may not be aligned with your personal or political views, right? Like you could easily argue, right? Like Tahoe is in California, which is one of the farthest left-leaning states in the nation. I could make the same argument that conservatives shouldn't go to Tahoe because it's very left-leaning, right? Like, I mean, we can get ridiculous on this.
Well, Evan and I, you both say like you especially and me are not known for like promoting or saying yay Spartan, but this is one Spartan event that I am kind of like, crap, I need to get to a Spartan race so I can somehow get there. Like I would love to go. If
they didn't change their qualifications for pro, maybe I would go. Maybe I'll still go. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what that. I haven't really planned out my year too well because Tough Mudder's been in unknown status for so long. But it looks like supposedly Spartan's going to buy them and they're going to start races up again around August. So we'll see what that looks like. But I've basically gone ahead and started planning my season without them.
Yeah, we're all there for the same thing. Once, like at the race, like that's why everybody's there.
So if you're going to travel the world, you're going to have to adapt to other cultures, right? Like, I mean, there are certain things you do in your own house that you wouldn't do in someone else's house. It's the same thing on a larger scale in a country, right? Like there's certain ways you act that you don't act in other countries. So when I went on my honeymoon, me and my wife spent some time in England, and then I actually had a friend living in Dubai, so we went to Dubai for a couple of days because we had a free place to stay. So I'm on my honeymoon with my wife, and it is not – I don't know if it's illegal. I don't think it is. It's not the cultural norm for people to hold hands. But I had just married my wife, and when we were in Dubai, we didn't hold hands because it wasn't the norm and we adjusted, right? Like, it's just a couple of days. You'll be all right. So I think people are overreacting. I saw a lot of very ethnocentric comments that show people were really showing their ass because they don't understand the difference between Middle Eastern countries. You know, it's like me, again, giving the American comparison. It's like being like, well, I'm not going to New York. Everyone there is a slave owner, you know, making like Southern comments about the North. And it's be like, do you have any idea what the United States looks like? It'd be like that. When you read through some of those comments on Facebook, which is kind of upsetting to say, but
it really is. And the funny thing and the irony of all that is, if so many other countries have acquiesced or made changes or adjusted their own culture to actually either, you can call it kind of Americanize or just make Americans or foreigners in general more comfortable in their own countries, and then people are so ignorant to that fact alone as well. So
I think the people who go to Abu Dhabi this year, Spartan World Championship, are going to absolutely love it. To be honest with you, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be an epic event. And like Brenna was saying,
absolutely.
I'd actually, that's like one of the few Spartan races I'd be like, yeah, I'm interested in doing that. I think I might have another international trip planned for myself though, so I might push the Spartan race off a year.
Well, I already saw pictures of someone else. I think it was, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, you might have seen it, Andy Hardy, who's a big Spartan promoter and does their workout events, was over there like right after the announcement, posting pictures, and it looks gorgeous and awesome. And heck yeah, new terrain. Love it. Looks cool.
Yeah, and I think that'll be interesting too, because it's going to bring people out on sand, which Brenna and Daniel, you had to experience, and that'll really change up. Some people who are not comfortable running in a different environment will have trouble, I think. So, you know, maybe if you live near a beach,
and there are hills.
Yeah, I would do some sand runs to get used to that, to get your little
and
stabilizer muscles.
I think everybody, again, ignorance. People are like, it's flat in the desert. I'm like, not quite, not all the way.
Yeah, I mean, you go up a couple steep sand dunes, you'll change your mind real quick. Just because
that's funny. I came from the chiropractor. Today, and they're like, you're really tight in your hips. And I was like, yeah. He was like, what were you doing? I was running in the sand and up hills, and they're like, oh yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, just because the elevation profile doesn't look like Tahoe or Killington doesn't mean the effect of running up a sand slope will be definitely different and painful on your muscles than just pure elevation with hard packed dirt. Get ready for that.
I definitely call a whole new like top 10, I think, depending on who actually travels and then who can adapt in that type of terrain. So it'll be exciting all around for a whole new experience.
I'm actually most excited to watch the Spartan World Championship this year than I have any other year, because like exactly what you said, travel and terrain and variance, and then you're gonna since it's Eastern Hemisphere, you're gonna get a whole new pool of athletes theoretically, of some people who may not have been willing to travel. So it could be a complete shakeup. I'm curious. Should be great. All right, let's start wrapping things up because we've been talking for a while. 3 people on the podcast. Tell us one thing people would be surprised to know about you. Daniel, I prepped you at the beginning of the episode, so you've had 45 minutes or so, probably close to an hour to think about it. So what do you got for me?
Okay. This is work related, so not as good as the other one, but it was always entertaining to me. I started contracting work about 15 years ago. We did contracting work for nursing homes, hospitals, living care centers. So we dabbled as my first, I think it was first three or 4 years. They're like mostly dealt with contracted service and like housekeeping and laundry services. And so about my end of my 4th year, I think it was, my boss calls me up and says, hey, we're adding 3 new accounts to your portfolio, and by the way, they're going to include the maintenance department. So you'll have maintenance in hospitals that have to do, it's going to be really simple, have this online program you're going to be following. And I remember it's like, okay, like make sure that, I'm lined out, I don't want to go in not knowing what I need to do, be lost in taking over these new accounts. And so I remember my very first day I show up, I meet with the CEO, and he said, so do you know what you're doing? And, of course, like I'm selling the company I'm working for. So like, oh yeah, absolutely. Very experienced, got this and I have this. And he's like, and I was like, they've prepped me in this program. I talked about the program a little bit, and he looks me dead in the face and he says, yeah, anybody can do that. I can teach a monkey to follow those. And I was like, oh okay. So this goes on for probably about 6 months of me just lying through my teeth on what I'm able to do. And so he calls my supervisor up, who sends his supervisor up. So now we're like the VP of my company is meeting with this guy. He talks to me for like 10, 15 minutes before we go into the meeting with the CEO. He's like, show me what you're doing. I kind of go, he's like, yeah, I don't really know this much about this. This isn't really my wheelhouse. I was like, okay, well, I've been telling this guy, this and, that we're pretty experienced. We know what we're doing. He walks into the meeting, sits down, and the first thing comes out of his mouth is, yeah, we don't know anything that we're doing. Daniel's totally confused on this. And, and I'm sitting right next to him, and I kind of looked. I was like, I've been lying to this guy for like 6 months, and you outed me in the first 2 minutes? Needless to say, though, like the CEO was, he was a ball buster, threw everything in the kitchen sink at me and the team that I was leading at the time. He resigns and takes a job somewhere else. He calls me into his office. He hands me 2 envelopes, and I was like, okay, is this a pink slip? You need to get the hell out of here. I open it up. I start reading, and I was like, it's like, Daniel, I hated the company that he worked for when they brought him on against my wishes. I was totally against this. They didn't have the background to handle the job. And so that went on, like that was the beginning of the letter. And then it went on to talk about how I was constantly just picking up, the information that he needed, learning it, adapting, and then turned out to be like the best operations director that he's ever had, that he recommends me for any job that I apply.
Taking bullshit to awesomeness.
Yeah, like it was the best and most genuine recommendation letter that I've ever had. It's the only one I've ever kept. And then the other envelope had like 2 headhunters for operations directors, and their names and their phone numbers. He said, he's like, do you do these 2 things and then contact them, and they'll get you a job wherever you want to go. I ended up actually being hired on by that company as like in-house director. So that was my crazy work story of bullshitting my way the entire 6 months, being completely outed in the first two minutes, and then turned into the working that job turned into the best letter of recommendation that I actually have ever had, and the only one I've ever kept. So.
Nice. All right, Brenna, what do you got?
Everybody knows that if you're listening to this and you follow, I'm bubbly and friendly, and I think Daniel actually informed me on this trip that you either love me or you hate me, I guess. Which, I guess it makes sense, but I think most people love me. There's like 1 or 2 that hate me, and for whatever valid reasons, they just don't like me. But I pride myself in being a personable, lovable person. Oh my gosh. Outside of that, when I travel, I'm sorry to say it, I hate people. And I'm probably like a bitch, but not like, if you talk to me, I make eye contact, I smile, I'm polite to all the gate agents and people working and anybody helping me. And like, if someone asks to sit down, I'm cordial and nice. But for some reason, when I travel, I hate flying. That's why I drive everywhere now. My dad was a pilot for 30 years, and the anxiety I have when I fly is ridiculous. Like I get sick. I hate it. I sweat. I don't want to pack. I don't want to leave the house. Yeah, when I encounter people, it just brings out this like anger in me, and I just think everybody's dumb and they make me mad. And so like airports, I just get really furious, like with crowds that stand up at the gate when you're like first called to the board and the entire gate clears and stands there, and I just look and scowl at people like, why are you standing there for no reason? So basically, if I'm flying and traveling, I'm a anxious bitch and shouldn't be around people. So that's what people don't know about me. I'm really friendly, but you don't want to fly with me, I guess.
All right, good to know. I'll link back to yours quickly. Me and my wife are both pretty big introverts. I can turn my introversion on and off. So like when I'm doing podcasts and interviews and stuff, like I turn it off. I say turn the introversion off. But I'm super like I'm on a work trip for 2 weeks, and every night I go back to my room and just sit in my room and read or watch a documentary or something, or work on some articles for Mud Run Guide. So that's kind of related to Brenna's. Related to Daniel's, in my book, Ultra OCR Man, I mentioned this, but I actually worked, I'm going to use the term internship at Under Armour for about 3 weeks. And it was similar situation where like the military sends us over there and they'll be like, yeah, they share tips with the civilian world and they'll share tips with you. And it's like, what am I going to teach Under Armour about running a business? Like, this is preposterous. I have no idea what I'm doing. But we went over there and we shared some some of the stuff we'd seen in the military actually applied to Under Armour. And, at the end of the 3 weeks, there were like 5 of us that went, and they were like super happy with the results and some of the stuff we shared and some of the things we pointed out for them. And then actually one of the guys from that 5-man group retired from the military in the next year and ended up getting a job there and was working as their security. I think he's still working as their security over there at the Under Armour campus in Baltimore. So that was pretty cool. But that was a wild experience. You can read about it in my book, but we were going out every night, and we went to a party at the CEO's house. Like George St. Pierre was there, Cam Newton was there. I sat through like a 2-hour staff meeting with Cam Newton. We went to the bar with Steve Smith from the Carolina Panthers, I think wide receiver at the time. It was like I kept meeting all these like famous sports people, and I'm not a sports person besides like obstacle course racing. So people would be like, and they'd name the athlete, and I'd be like, literally means nothing to me. Like, I had no clue who Cam Newton was. People were like, you got to meet with Cam Newton. And I was like, am I supposed to know who that is? They're like, you don't know who Cam Newton is? I was like, I don't even know what sport he plays. And they're like, oh. I was like, oh. This is back in 2000. This was 13. This was back in 2013. But so maybe I had less of an excuse to know who he was then. But it was
I don't know, man.
It's probably still pretty bad. It was an insane experience. Bottom line, I met like all these famous athletes that I still don't understand quite how lucky I was in that situation. But people seem to be excited that I kept meeting these people. Not me though. So all right, we're gonna start wrapping things up. And again, if anyone wants to pick up my book, Ultra OCR Man, from Special Forces Soldier to Record-Setting Obstacle Course Racer, it's available hard copy, digital, and now audiobook. So if you have Audible, you can use a credit on that. Someone just sent me a super nice note today. I didn't ask if I could read this, so I'm not going to use his name. But he just sent me an Instagram message. Just wanted to let you know that I really enjoyed your book on Audible. The sleep deprivation stories in the military had me dying. People in the car next to me were probably thought I was a crazy person laughing in my car by myself. On a serious note, I think the book, and then he tells some nice things about me. I'm not going to share the rest of it. He said some nice things about me. I don't need to share some of that. But anyway, the point is he enjoyed the book. Check it out. I think it came out really well, obviously. And if you want to hear about OCR America 1, I go through it like day by day in there. And if you want to hear about OCR America 2, you can just go over to Stoke Shed and watch their videos, which are phenomenal, which I've been plugging basically as much as I can because he just did such a good job. And I really hope some of the other OCR companies out there hire him because he's next level, right? He took several hours of footage and condensed it into 3 minutes that are phenomenal with no storyline, that he can do in advance. And he shot the video, edited it, put the music on, made the story, and published it all within 24 hours for 8 days in a row, which is insane. I don't think people understand quite how much work that is. So
I honestly can't imagine like you doing any other similar event without that. I mean, it made following it that much more real. I mean, you just can't say enough about that coverage. I mean, it's kind of weird thinking back of like, OCR 1 or even like, the mills, or even, probably maybe not want him at, Endure, but
that would have been great for Endure. So what's funny was Bobby was at that event. I just didn't know who he was, and he wasn't shooting video for the event yet. He was just there running. So we were right next to each other. I
did see him running.
So, which is kind of funny, but I mean, their stuff is he's operating on a different planet, in my opinion, than every other OCR video website and producer. So I'm really hoping more people start following him, and I think that's the future. I think that's how we really get OCR into bite-sized clips that are interesting to people and they can consume and share.
Yes.
Get to their friends and stuff. So, because I mean, people at work,
absolutely.
I never talk about obstacle course racing at work because I assume it bores the hell out of people. But people at work, they asked me about the 8-day event, so I showed them the video, and they were like, "These are really good," and they have no interest in obstacle course racing, right? Like, more people make fun of me at work for obstacle course racing than give me like legitimate props. That's the type of crowd I work with, right? Like, why don't you go run to the gym? It's like, good one, guys. I actually will do that later. But so, yeah. And then all A-type personalities, that's what you get. People just make fun of you. No one actually gives you credit for doing good things. So, or like I'll be like, oh, that's runnable. Like, it's close. It's like right down the street. It's runnable. And they'll be like, oh, well, runnable for you is like 40 miles. And I'll be like, good one, guys. Good one. So.
Yeah, it's funny because people at work will be like, "Oh man, why do you run? That's so stupid. Why do you want to do that?" And then in the same breath, man, I got to lose some weight.
Like weird. It's weird how those things. Yeah. If only there was a connection.
I know. Like, whoa.
All right, we've been talking for long enough. Final shout outs. Brenna, what do you got?
Well, I don't know when I'll be back on. So exciting, awesome news that I haven't really posted on social media yet. I am very happy. Huh? Oh yeah. I'm proud to say and shout out to my newest ambassador partnerships. One has helped out and been a partner, kind of sponsor of Strength and Speed podcast. I am finally part of the Flamboyance Gooder family. I'm so excited. So I ordered me some new Gooder sunglasses today. So thank you for that. I've only been wearing them for over a year and posting about them every single day. I love the sunglasses. So yay for that. And shout out to Salming North American Running. I have joined their ambassador program for some amazing shoes. Super stoked because I own like 4 pairs now. Road running, trail running, specifically for OCR. Found them at Savage Race. So yeah, thank you for both of those companies bringing me on board to represent officially without just, posting all about them. And yeah, so now I'm part of the team. I'm very excited. So thank you to those two, Gooder and Salming.
All right, Daniel, what do you got?
I mean, I have to go ahead and double down and shout out Amine and Hiba for their awesome event and bringing me out there and letting me just get a taste of that amazing trip. I mean, can't thank them enough. I mean, it was absolutely awesome, and even taking care of us the entire time and getting us to where we needed to go. Definitely shout out to Hiba and her husband for gracious hosting to their home, and the stories her husband had to tell were awesomely insane. Definitely can talk about that after the podcast, but those are so interesting as well. We can definitely dive more into that later, Evan. Some interesting things you probably want to know too.
Okay.
But just a shout out to the whole Hannibal family. I mean, it was such an awesome time to go out there and have that experience. So.
Awesome. And Blegmit Extremes are en route from Australia back to the U.S. So if you're looking to stock up on, get a pair of Blegmit Extremes, I should have them stock soon. Pre-order is now open on the website, so you can reserve your pair on the website starting meow. And then other than that, Daniel, if you saw my live broadcast, you just won a pair of Fat Grips because you donated to the OCR America giveaway. You did. Right before this podcast.
I did.
Congratulations. And then I complained because I was like, this is bullshit. Daniel won again. This stuff's fixed. Everything's fixed here. I was like upset at my own contest. I pulled your name out of a hat. It was you, Brian, and Jake, and you won again. So I hit you up afterwards, get your address. I'll send you those Fat Grips. So, all right, we're going to take off. I think I've plugged enough companies. We'll catch all you later, and we'll be back for the next episode with Matt Hansen talking about World's Toughest Mudder and what his plans are if Tough Mudder is not a thing anymore. And he's got a pretty crazy story, which I had no idea about. Really kind of does in some of his personal experiences that, again, you look at him and you'd have no clue. So actually kind of got serious. So it's not really expecting that podcast to go that way for a little bit, but I think it's really good. And if someone has going through some similar troubles, I think it'd be really helpful for them. All right, that's it. We'll catch all you later. Out.
Awesome.